Nina, it is a pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you? How has everything been? I mean, what a whirlwind of an experience having this game in the wild. Now the reviews are epic. The game is epic. How are you feeling?
Oh, amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. And
My pleasure.
yeah, I mean, it has been a whirlwind. It's been amazing and humbling and incredible all at the same time. I feel like the last 3 months haven't really been real. Um, Yeah, I've spoken a little bit about this in previous interviews, but I didn't realize what a big game this was actually. So I've kind of come into it a bit blind and a bit naive, not quite knowing the scope of things. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for and humble to be part of this. Just the fact that I got to play such an amazing character has been amazing. And I'm really missing it. I want to get back. I want to get back into the booth. And yeah, no, it's amazing.
How do you stay humble when every damn comment is how good you are and how
Yeah,
amazing of a performance it is?
it's great. I'm having to like pinch myself.
Yeah.
It's everyone's so lovely. You know, sometimes you get the odd negative comment here and there, but it's always like that when you're in the business. You always get that, no matter what production you're part of, whatever roles you've played. But with this, it has been overwhelmingly positive. And yeah, I mean, everyone's making me really arrogant now. I'm becoming super
I can
arrogant.
tell,
And
Nina. It's rubbing off on you. Come on.
it is, yeah. Yeah, no, it's so nice. I don't really know what to say. I write this like gratitude journal in the evenings. I try to do like gratitude time every day as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I write down all of the positive comments I get.
Do
So
you?
I don't,
Wow.
yeah, I don't take them for granted. I really appreciate it. So yeah. I mean, I can't write down every single comment, but I'll
Yeah.
kind of remind myself that I've had really lovely feedback every day. And yeah, it's just boosting my confidence.
That's it. We'll get into Benedikta and Final Fantasy, but take us back to growing up, because I know you had a Polish mother, a Norwegian father. What's that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. So I grew up in Norway most of the time with a Polish mother and Norwegian father. You've done your research. That's amazing. Um, and we spoke both languages at home.
Wow.
And luckily, my mom learned Norwegian, my dad learned Polish. So it was quite a nice situation where everyone could understand each other, whether we spoke Polish or Norwegian. So yeah, I felt like I grew up bilingual that way. And I think maybe languages have come quite easy for me. So my English is now very good. When I first moved to the UK, which was in 2011, so that's what, 12, 13 years ago now,
Goes
12
fast,
years
doesn't it?
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, my English was terrible. I
Wow.
couldn't I couldn't have a proper conversation with people. And I went to the UK to go to drama school. And originally, I didn't actually get in because my English was too bad. So I had to do these like IELTS tests and like TOEFL tests that kind of they test your language ability. And I scored below average, like below the score I needed to get into the school. And I remember just writing a long email to them being like, I promise I will learn the language. Like, please admit me still. I'll take English lessons after class. And, as soon as you move to a different country and you're forced to use the language, you learn it very quickly. It's the best way to learn a new language, to be fair. So after I moved to Scotland, which wasn't, an easy accent to understand at first. But um, after 6 months, I was fluent. And yeah, since then, I've been working with accent teachers and like voice coaches to really pin down different British accents. So yeah, I get a lot of questions about where I'm actually from because people can't really tell. They can't really tell that I'm foreign, I guess. I get like Irish quite a lot and stuff. And I think it's just a mix of me living in Scotland and moving to the UK and doing all of these accent lessons. But yeah. So I guess that was sort of like my earlier years. Then I moved to London, started working as an actress, and got my agents and started working in the film industry, did some theater, TV industry, mainly actually in recent years. It's been mainly TV. And then I was lucky to fall into the voiceover business and work on amazing video games. Yeah, so
What was it like growing
kind of,
up in Norway? It's a beautiful place. If I'm not
yeah.
mistaken, I haven't been myself. I'd love to go one day.
I mean, it was amazing. I
Mm.
really miss Norway a lot. I try to go back as much as I can. Um, it's a very, how can I, like a very calm place, I guess.
Mm.
So I felt like as a kid, I felt very safe to leave home and go and explore. You know, my mom would be like, okay, as long as you're home for dinner at 5, just, go
Off you
wherever,
go.
as long as you're
Yeah.
off you go. Yeah. And so with my friends, we'd like cycle on these long expeditions, like, cycling all around my town. And yeah, it's a very safe place, I'd say. And it's a great place to grow up because there's so much nature. You can play outside. And yeah, I feel very grateful for the fact that I got to grow up there.
How do you adapt moving? Because you moved from there to London to Scotland. You've been all around the place. Is that a culture shock to you, or are you used to that now?
Well, now I'm used to it. And I
Yeah.
didn't think it would be a culture shock, actually, because you kind of think that all the Western countries are sort of similar in culture. But I mean, it was, once I moved there, it was quite the culture shock.
Yeah.
I remember the first few years, and it was, it was in a funny and lovely and loving way, but people would laugh at how European I was. And I remember thinking, but what do you mean Norway's not in the EU at the time? UK was in the EU. So my argument would be like, you guys are more European than me, but yeah, sure, whatever. um, but yeah, it took me a while to sort of understand, I guess, the sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think I get it now. I hope I get it now. I think I get it. But at first, I wouldn't quite understand jokes and irony, and I take things personally, or I was way too forward with, saying things as they are, whilst in the UK, there's a tendency to sort of talk yourself down and apologize a lot, which I've started to do now myself. But that's not something you do in Norway. You kind of just say it as it is, and it can come across as harsh and forward. But yeah, so it was interesting to what's the word, acclimatize to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took me a few years, but I feel very much like a Londoner now.
Yeah. Obviously COVID was not great for anyone, but for you, you were working on this game, right, during COVID?
No, so we took a
No?
break actually. During COVID, I was working on Assassin's Creed, funnily
Valhalla,
enough.
great game.
Valhalla, yeah. So they kept going and um sort of guided all of the voice talent to build a studio from home.
Oh, so you were one of
And
them that built.
I was one of them, yeah. So I
Wow.
did some of my Assassin's Creed recordings was from home. And picture this, you're kind of you're trying to isolate the sound.
Yeah.
if you don't have a sound studio, which now, you know, fortunately I do have like a voice studio at home, but if you don't have it, you need to create it somehow, and you need to kind of isolate the sound so that it sounds quite dry, and so that you don't really hear ambience from the room and stuff. So at one point I had stacked loads of chairs on top of each other, and had borrowed my friend's duvet and my own duvet, kind of clipped them together, put them over the
And you
tower
were
of
in it.
chairs. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
in it, sweating
That'd be hot.
so much because it was
Yeah.
so warm.
Oh, there's no air
And
cons allowed when you're doing
no,
voiceover.
and Valhalla as well it was a lot of, you know, battles and screams, and so you get a workout after a session like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was what it was. It ended up sounding, you know, great. So that's great. But no, we took a break from Final Fantasy. So in a way, it was quite interesting to dive back into it after the pandemic was over. And we had to I had to remind myself a little bit what I had recorded in previous recordings. So they would sort of play back what I had recorded, and I'd have to sort of match my voice to what I did, because it was such a long break in between.
Yeah, I
So
can't
yeah,
think of any other circumstances where that would happen to an actor, where you go away.
yeah,
Besides,
yeah.
if there was a sequel to a game or something like that. But yeah, that must be bizarre to just leave her behind and then pick her back up a year or so later.
It was very bizarre, and you know, when you kind of leave it as well, when we hit COVID, you know, I didn't know whether it was going to go ahead again, because a lot of my projects that I had prior to COVID and once the pandemic hit got cancelled and never happened. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it was like, you didn't really know whether it was going to continue or not, or I didn't. So
Mm.
it was nice to come back and delve back into her story. But yeah, it was a long break.
Do you before we get into that? Do you remember your time on Bravely Default? I know I have a few fans that
Yeah.
loved that game. I'm just
Yeah.
curious how your experience on that one.
Oh my God, I loved playing Edna. It's a very heightened
Mm.
game, so the characters are much more heightened, and
Yeah.
I felt like I could just be the weirdest self possible. Uh
Are you someone that
yeah.
moves in the booth? Are you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I will move. Sometimes I'll punch the mic. You know, the setup falls. Uh yeah, with Edna there was a lot of physicality involved because she's so fierce. Uh yeah, and a lot of sort of laughing and screaming and shouting as well. I seem to be typecast for these roles. I think
What
everyone
badass
thinks I'm
women?
crazy women. Yeah,
Oh,
like people
okay.
who are just absolutely bonkers. And yeah, but like Edna's one of those. But yeah, I remember recording this. That was a way back now. I can't quite remember when, but I remember the
2018,
recording.
17? Yeah.
Yeah, probably around that time. Um, and I didn't spend as long with that character. We had like quite intense sessions sort of back to back. So yeah, I wasn't with her for as long as I was with Benedikta.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was fun. I have fond memories.
So, Benedikta, how did this all come about for you? And you said that you didn't quite understand the gravitas of this game and what you were getting yourself into. So, I'm guessing your first session you weren't nervous at all. You were just ready to go. Talk to us about
Yeah, I remember the casting process because it was one of the first times that I actually had a recall for a game. Uh, Usually you kind of send a voice sample, and then you get picked or you don't get picked. But with this, I had to go into the studio, and I met loads of people. Koji was there, and some of the voice directors were there, and the audition was so amazing. It was so much fun. You get kind of sent coded scripts and coded characters, so I didn't know what character it was I was auditioning for. I didn't know what the game was. All I knew was that it was like some cool scenes, and the funny thing is that the scenes are similar to the ones in the game, but kind of slightly rewritten. So that's how they see whether you suit the character or not.
Do you remember what scene it was from the I know we're going back a while now, so if you don't, I don't blame you.
It was, I think it was the first scene, one of the earlier scenes with Clive, where he confronts her. And she's super savvy, and she's like, "Come, little lamb, to the slaughter."
Okay,
that scene. I think it was that, and then some of the later scenes. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything in case people haven't played all of it, but some of the later really intense, emotional scenes. So they wanted to explore my entire range, and they got that actually. They got that in the audition.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and then I kind of just got an email from my agent saying, "Congratulations, you got the role." And I didn't think much more of it because I don't know, you as a voice actor, you get given these roles in video games, but sometimes they never tell you what it is. So even after they have released the game, you don't get told unless I guess you're the lead. So it was the first time I kind of played a bigger lead in a game, I think, potentially. But again, I don't know, because maybe there's other games out there that I don't know of.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that much of it, and I didn't know how many sessions I was going to have either. So, when the sessions kind of kept on coming in and I kept on being booked in, I think I maybe did 1 or 2 sessions a month. And then, each month we would do a little session. I was kind of just positively surprised that they kept on bringing me back in. I think both David, who plays Barnabas, and obviously Ben, who plays Clive, both of them got the full script sent to them because
they're in so
Clive,
much.
They need to know. Whilst I wasn't sent the entire script, I think because my character appears only in the beginning, really, so I didn't really need to know the rest. So I didn't quite know.
So you've got no idea where the story is going?
Not really. No, I didn't really quite know.
Yeah.
Which many actors would have freaked out about that, because you kind of want to prepare and you want to know where your character is going and like what your emotional arc is. But for me, it actually worked really well because I felt like I was just in the moment, in the booth. And I was just concentrating on that scene specifically, giving my all to that scene, not thinking about how it affected everything else. So I think it actually worked really well for me, because I had no expectations. I didn't feel the pressure of playing a bigger part. Like I didn't know she was one of the dominants really until like very late in the session, where they were like, "Do you know what game this is? Like, do you realize the scope of your character? Like, do you know she's going to have an impact?" And I was like, "No, I didn't actually know that." So, but it kind of removed all pressure and expectations. So I felt very free in the sessions, very unafraid. And but you can't be afraid when you play Benedikta, because she's very unafraid. I mean, maybe I don't want to say anything. There's a little fear in there, but but she comes across as very fearless and fierce.
Well,
So
she's a very interesting character because I feel like there's a big past there that's yet to be
yeah,
explored. Do they tell
yeah.
you much about that backstory going in, or do you have to piece that together yourself?
They did tell me. They did send like a character sheet and a background story for her. So I did know that before I started recording. So I knew kind of what she had been through. So I knew how to color her as a person. There's a reason why people are the way that they are due to previous experiences and how they've lived their life and how they've been treated. And she's got a very colorful one. So I did bring that in mind, keep that in mind. I mean, when I was voicing her character. Yeah.
Because I
So
feel like
they
there's
did
a
tell me.
past there with Sid that I don't
Yeah.
know if how can give us any insights on that we might not know, but there's an interesting
I'm
relationship there.
There
Mm.
is. Yeah, they have a very complex, interesting relationship. I feel like it's something I haven't quite discussed with Square Enix yet, so I feel like I'm a bit scared to give out too
No,
much
that's
in
fine.
case I'm not allowed. But yeah, they have a very interesting relationship, and they're both characters are very important for each other.
Mm.
Um, so
It feel like
yeah.
he left her behind a little bit. And she's got a grudge against him. That's how I interpret it.
Hmm.
I would say, yeah. There's
Yeah. That's
definitely
interesting you interpret it that way.
yeah. It's
I
no,
think
not. I'm wrong.
some people no, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay,
I'm just, it's I think there's always two sides to a story, two sides to
that's the thing
uh like a
to the argument. Yeah.
yeah, like an argument. So someone might take it that way. I think maybe I saw it in a different light when I was recording
Oh,
her. But
okay.
yeah, I think it's more complex than that. And this is, again, kudos to the writing because the characters are so amazingly developed and real and deep. So it's never black and white, I feel like. So yeah, with Benedikta, I don't think it's one left the other. I believe
Mm.
it's more complex than that.
This is a bit of a generic question, but I'm really curious. Is there a favorite line or scene that for you that stood out above the rest at all? I'm just
Mm.
curious because she had so much, as you say, great dialogue and development throughout your time. I'm just curious, any of the scenes stand out for you?
Yeah, I think I always like the high impact emotional scenes. I'm
Yeah.
one of those actors that I
Thrive.
thrive on letting out emotions. And I find a lot of dialogue and the more sort of mundane scenes where you have to give information and speak a lot, I don't like them as much. Those are the ones that I
Really?
find the most, yeah, those are the scenes I find the hardest to do. Whilst with the emotional stuff, I can kind of just dive right into it. And so I think my favorite scenes were towards the end
Oh,
of
I mean, I'm the same.
Benedikta's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, towards the end of her time in the game. I remember those recordings really fondly. And it was like it was basically a therapy session. It's
Uh,
it becomes a therapy session
really?
because you can't keep anything in. You gotta give her your full truth. So whatever I have to bring into her. um so yeah, those were the best sessions for me because after that I came home and I was so light. I don't know whether you've ever had that experience, but if you're keeping something inside and then
Mm.
finally you manage to let go of it, whether you have, I don't know, you're angry or even it could be like sort of hysterical laughter, like some sort of hysterical emotion, and after you've let that out, you just feel so light and good.
So how did you build up to that hysterical emotion? Because you can't just get into it like that in the booth, can you? After 5 minutes, you're straight there. You got to build up to that, right?
Not really. I'm just crazy, you know.
Well, maybe
know,
you can turn it on straight away. I mean, everyone's different. Yeah.
I feel like I'm at the point now where I can just turn it on. But
Wow.
it's not always been like that. It's come with practice, like years of practice, I guess. So I remember when I first started drama school and I was very new in the industry. I didn't have the techniques to channel my emotions as easily. So I remember back then I needed time to get in the mode. You know, I needed like an hour or two to kind of get into it, and then I could channel emotions or whatever. I would, you know, think about horrible things or listen to music that reminded me of a horrible situation or experience. And for many years, that's how I worked. I had to do that. So like if I was filming something and I knew I had a very emotional scene the next day, I was a nightmare the day before. But now I'm not like that anymore. I think it comes with practice. Now I'm kind of where I can just turn it on and off. And sometimes it's actually hard to control it, because if I get overexcited about something or I get too into a discussion or something, like the emotions kind of come like that. So yeah, for me, when I was recording Benedikta, it was very much just turn it on and off. Yeah, I didn't need much prep time.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. So you could cry on cue, pretty much, right? Am I safe to say that? Not on cue, but I'm not going to make you do it now. But don't worry.
Don't make me do it now.
No. But I mean, given a few minutes, you can get to that place. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You know, of course there are days where it's harder. I find that if I am personally going through something traumatic in my life, that's when I'm protecting myself. So it's harder for me to get into the emotions. So for instance, I can give you an example. I had a self-tape a few weeks ago, or actually no, a few months ago now. And I was really upset about something that day. And the self-tape I had needed to be very emotional. And I just couldn't get a single tear out. It was like I wasn't
blank.
having it. I was blank because I was subconsciously protecting myself because I was already feeling very vulnerable. So yeah, when I'm good, when I'm living a great life, I can turn the emotions on and off. But if something bad happens, then that's when I find it more difficult to channel the emotions. Yeah.
Wow. I got to say, and spoilers for anyone that hasn't, let's just go with halfway through the game, I would say. But anyway, just play the game, guys, please. It's phenomenal. The boss fight, I mean, that is spectacular. I don't know if you've seen the footage, but when I'm playing that, it's just exhilarating. And the efforts that you and Ben are putting in, and the music, the score, man, what an experience that was.
Yeah. That's very therapeutic as well. You know,
Yeah.
I remember just doing a few sessions that were only efforts. So no dialogue whatsoever. It was just 2 hours or whatever of like efforts and fighting, and you don't have to go to the gym.
Day.
You don't have to go to the gym for a whole week afterwards. You're like flat out in bed. You can't move any muscle. But yeah, I think, you know, they've done an amazing job. The directors and Square Enix and everyone, it's just it's done so brilliantly. It's cinematic as well as impactful in the music and just the sound design. And, you know, all I do is I go into a booth and give some efforts, but they piece it together afterwards. and pick the right cues for the right time. So I feel like I need to give a lot of my performance, it's
incredible developers, aren't they?
Yeah, it's credits to the developers and everyone who pieced it together afterwards, because they've done an incredible job.
Very talented.
Yeah.
But
the boss fight's amazing.
There was one part that it crossed the line, Nina. I mean, Benedikta, you can't touch a dog. For me, that's just crossing the line.
It wasn't me touching the dog. It was Torgal throwing himself at me.
True. I mean,
biting my neck. How else was I supposed to react?
True. I mean, true. Yeah.
It was so funny when those scenes were released. I had so many funny comments. I didn't realize, again, because I'm so new to the franchise, I didn't realize the love for Torgal. Yeah. I love Torgal. I love him, actually. Personally, I love him. Benedikta hates him. But personally, I love him. I love dogs.
How can you not? Yeah.
And it was so interesting. I got very lovely comments on Twitter from people being like, "Oh, we really love you as Benedikta, but don't be mean to Torgal." No one was directly mean to me. I thought maybe I would get more hatred, like, "Don't fucking touch the dog,"
Yeah.
But everyone was really nice.
He didn't die. So that, luckily, if the dog, that would have been, dog dies there.
Yeah. I've had many comments where people say, if Torgal dies, I'm not playing Final Fantasy anymore. Fair enough. I get it.
For some reason, any movie where a dog dies, I'm an emotional wreck. Like Marley and Me. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I know I haven't, but I'm not sure if I want to watch it.
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. Oh, it's just too much. Yeah. So when that boss fight is over, obviously, there's a lot of emotion in those final moments. Do you remember recording those and how you were feeling?
Yeah, those were my favorite scenes. Those are the scenes that I'm referring
to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so tragic. I look at her with such fondness. Because I know her inner feelings. To me, she's just a girl who sort of got guided in the wrong path. And she's had to put up walls. She's had to protect herself. I think deep down she's very sensitive, and everything comes rushing back to her in those final moments. So it was very cathartic scenes to record.
Square Enix, if you're listening, we need a DLC, I think, with Sid and Benedikta. I think there's a lot you could explore there, as I touched on 100%. Earlier. I mean, 100%. And I love Ralph Ineson. He's a phenomenal actor. He is.
His voice is just so iconic. He's the voice of the year now. He's the voice of the year with Diablo and Final Fantasy. He's incredible. In LA, actually, when we were there, Ralph and I pitched this to Yoshi P. So Yoshi P is aware. P is aware that we really want to delve, further into Sid's and Benedikta's history.
But it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that you've got such great chemistry. But you obviously never recorded together, right? You're hearing him in your ear, or he's hearing you, and you're playing. Is that how it works? You're playing off what you're hearing in the headset, or
if you're lucky, the other person has already recorded their lines, so you can react off of them. But in my case,
you weren't lucky.
I wasn't lucky. Not much had been recorded beforehand, so I ended up doing scenes with Hannah and Morgan and Ollie, like the voice directors who were always there in my sessions. They would read in the lines of Clive or of Sid, and I would react off of them. But no offense to Morgan, Ollie, and Hannah, they're all amazing. But it's not the same as reacting off of an actor delivering lines,
Of course, yeah.
So we had some funny moments Yeah. Sometimes it was actually easier for me not to hear other lines either, just to kind of
Really?
dive into it.
Why
Yeah.
is that? Why is it easier?
Well, there's some scenes with Hugo.
Oh,
And
yeah, those scenes. Okay.
yeah. And it's like, okay, honestly, recording those scenes with the director reading in the other lines,
Awkward or what?
you're pissing yourself with laughter. Like it's impossible to keep a straight face. And I'm there, thinking, but for fuck's sake, like all I want to do is laugh. It's so hilarious. But
Oh,
I have to give the truth to Benedikta. She's in a different headspace. Like I need to be in her headspace, So sometimes it was just easier not to hear the lines and just record them sort of blind. Because it was impossible to keep a straight face.
oh, that's brilliant. So
Yeah.
did Ralph ever talk to you about that? Because he obviously heard all your lines when he was doing his performance. Did he ever say, "Phenomenal job, Nina. Thank you for that, by the way. You made my
Oh.
life easy."
He never said that I made his life easy, no, but he's been very complimentary. I mean, everyone's so lovely. Like all the voice actors, and everyone's incredible. And yeah, I think we're all very proud of what we have recorded. Like I can't say
Mm.
there's not a weak link in the cast whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, we were all incredibly complimentary to each other because we're just in awe of the fact that we get to work together. Yeah, and I wish that I did more ensemble recordings. I know that Ben and Rolf were sometimes in the studio together alongside Susanna.
Oh, okay.
But I was never given the opportunity to record with anyone else. I was always alone in the booth because no one wanted to subject the other actors to my intenseness.
They were intimidated, Nina. They
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
they knew they were going to be overshadowed if they were in there with you.
Oh no, definitely not overshadowed. Just when I'm in the booth, like I say, it's therapeutic. So that's what you get.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it a nice learning experience for you, or was it? How would you describe the entire experience?
Amazing. It was such a we were so lucky that we had so much time to record. So when I came into the session, we would focus on one scene at a time, and we would keep going until we were happy. We didn't really have a time limit. There wasn't a time pressure. Sometimes with other video games, they have very strict sort of, I guess maybe
Three takes
budget.
and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of give two different versions of a line and then you skip to the next. Whilst here we were really exploring. We kind of delved into the scenes and they had to explain everything to me in the session because I had no clue really about what was going on. So like half of the session was kind of like a storytelling mode where they told me, okay, this is what happens. This is what just happened,
But how beneficial is that when you get that context? Yeah.
I mean, you can hear the difference, I think.
Definitely.
This is why the performances are incredible. It's not because actors in other video games aren't good. Everyone's amazing. It's just it depends on what time you get given and how you are directed in the sessions. So, I give so much creds to Morgan, Ollie, and Hannah, all who guided us and our voice performances in every single session, because without them, I wouldn't really have known what to do. So for me, it was a highlight in my experience as a voiceover actor for video games, because I've never been given that time before. And so I felt like I always did my best work when I walked out of the session. Sometimes you finish a recording session and you're like, I don't even know what that was. You're just like, well, they're just gonna have to piece it all together. I don't know whether that's good or bad. But with this, I always felt like
Confident?
I felt really confident because we explored the scenes together until I was happy as well. I had the power to say, actually, guys, I want to try again. I didn't feel like this was my best take. Like I want to try again and go again.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was one of the best experiences I've had voicing video games.
And have you ever had a chance to do motion capture or performance capture? Because I feel like you would really thrive doing that.
It's my dream.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it's my dream. I've never done it. We did face capture for this. So
okay. Yeah, you had the camera on. Yeah, okay.
We had the camera on. So in a way, I felt like, as soon as you've got your facial expressions in, you have to use your whole body anyway. It's like being on camera. You are on camera, actually. So yeah, you gotta give it your all. But this is a very sad story, actually. I was hired to do performance capture, motion capture in Vancouver for a good 6 months. And this was a few years ago. And I was so excited. I was like, oh God, I'm moving to Vancouver. I'm doing motion capture. I've never done this before. And 2 weeks before I was about to fly, the whole project got red lit. And it didn't happen. And then I got an email from the producer saying something happened. There was something about the finances that didn't go through, or like they didn't get the last sort of financing that was required. So they've put all of the financing for this game into another game, and I'm not part of it.
Man, how do you feel reading an email like that? That's devastating.
It was devastating. Damn. I was planning my mortgage on this job.
Yeah.
It was 6 months of motion capture and for a huge game. They didn't tell me what the game was, so like I can't
you can't even say.
I don't know. Wow. But yeah, it was that was devastating. So that was like the closest I got to doing motion capture, but I have told all of my agents I'm very interested, so hopefully something will come.
That's good. Yeah, I think you'd really thrive in an environment like that. I can already tell.
Yeah, I can tell too. Yeah.
With Final Fantasy, were you one to look at the reviews when they came out? Were you?
Yeah.
Or do you read all the reviews, or do you? Because I get different stories from different actors. Some, they will not look at any reviews because they don't want to be
upset in case something's
swayed either good or even if they're amazing or bad, they don't sort of want to be swayed either way. I'm curious where you land on that.
I'm too curious.
Yeah.
I will read them. Yeah. Was it all the reviews came out? Was it on the 25th of May or something? It was like
that sounds right.
A day where all the reviews came out. I was waiting. I was like watching
waiting for the
clock
time.
tick. Yeah. I haven't read them all. No, I haven't read them all. Of course, but I read a lot of them, and I see all the comments I get on social media. I try to respond to everyone, even the bad ones. I try to respond to them as well. So
what do you say?
I just say thank you for taking the time, or like thank you for your feedback, or whatever. Depends what it is, but yeah, because people have taken time out of their day to write to me. Like I appreciate that. I genuinely do. So but I do read the reviews, and I was very nervous. I was actually very nervous before the reviews, because we kind of live in this bubble, I think, as voiceover actors, and everyone wants it to be amazing. And we can kind of only, or I can only quite comprehend what we did in the session. And to me, that was really good work, what everyone did. But to see how the whole game is sort of reviewed, it's something else. You never know, like certain scenes can be good, but is the whole game good? That's something else. And you know, we all really wanted it to be. So
what's that feeling like when you're seeing all these 9s and 10s just coming through?
Amazing. So happy for, you know, like, because I'd already met Yoshi P and Koji and all of the, you know, real stars of this, and they have lived with this project for many, many, many years. And to then, you know, to get reviews that aren't good, like how heartbreaking is that when you've lived with something for years and years and you've given it your all? I feel like, you know, whether you've done a good job or not, you just deserve great feedback. You did it.
You deserve a pat on the back for finishing any sort of art. Yeah, movie, short film, TV, game. Yeah.
The thing is, I produce some films sometimes, so like I like to play producer sometimes, and I can't say that the films that I've produced are masterpieces, but my entire soul went into producing these films. And I know, you know, I can just imagine what it's like to produce a 90-hour video game. It's more than your soul that goes into that. And, you know, I cherish my little short films with my whole being, even though I watch them now in hindsight and I'm like, maybe they're not masterpieces. Like, I know there's definitely work still to be done, but I still look at them as my children.
What one of your shorts would you recommend everyone listening and watching? Is there any one that we should seek out?
Well, it depends what you like, because they're all quite different in genre. Do you have a specific genre you like?
You know, I like comedies. I don't know if you've done many comedy.
Okay. Yeah. I've done 3 comedies.
Yeah.
I'm actually very proud of my first comedy, which is called Nobody's Darling.
Okay.
Cool. It's a 15-minute short film, and that was my first ever producing experience, and you know, it kind of changed my life forever in a way. I watch it now and I'm like, yeah, there's faults in this, but I kind of love it. So check it out. It's actually available to watch on Vimeo. I think it's
cool.
It's not password protected anymore because we finished our festival run. That one, and then I'd say my most recent film was a comedy as well called Painter and the Poet. And that was by far the most prestigious sort of film that I've produced, with, you know, a big budget and 100+ crew and people and actors. You know, it was
100+.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
We were like, I think in the end we ended up being 120 people working on this, and we filmed over 4 days during the pandemic. Actually, it was when Omicron happened. It was like in December time, and Omicron was kind of taking over. It was really stressful.
Where did you shoot it?
As a producer in London.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I'm happy with how it turned out. It's very artistic, different type of sort of drama comedy.
Is it a pitch for a bigger, deeper story, or is it just a short film?
I think it's just a short film. This one I was kind of hired in as a producer by an existing film company called Silver Rose Productions. Previously, I've kind of owned the IPs of the films. This one, I got hired in as a freelance producer.
So no acting, or there was acting?
No, I wasn't acting. No, I was just producing.
Oh, okay. These. Yeah, right.
But I have a film coming up later this year that we're shooting in November, where I'm also starring and producing. So that will be my first bigger budget short film that I'm both starring and producing. So that will be a
Are you
learning curve.
nervous? Are you nervous? Are you excited?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm both nervous and excited. Yeah, I've lived with this story for so many years now. I've lived with this story since 2015. So yeah, it's been a long time, and we've developed the script for a very long time with like my really good, like closest friends. And yeah, we're just so happy that it's happening now. So I'm both terrified and exhilarated and excited.
Can you give us anything on that one? Are you allowed to reveal any small
Um,
snippet?
yeah, I mean, I can give you like a broad sort of overview. It's a drama,
Mm-hmm.
very dark. It's set in the Second World War in Norway. So I play a Norwegian woman who finds herself in all sorts of trouble. We're kind of delving into a footnote in history that hasn't really been explored yet. But she goes through something that many women during the Second World War went through, but it hasn't really been discussed. Yeah, so it's a very interesting time to explore. Yeah, I hope we do it justice.
It sounds fascinating. You've got me intrigued already.
Yeah. I'll send you a link once it's done. You can watch
Thank you.
it.
I know. I appreciate it. And we'll definitely check out that other film on Vimeo. And I
Yeah.
implore everyone listening and watching to do the same. Is there anything you wanted to say to the Final Fantasy fans or the fans of your other work that have tuned in today or have loved your performance? Is there anything you wanted to pass on to them?
Oh, just that I'm so grateful to everyone and anyone who has reached out to, you know, tell me their thoughts or it's just so heartwarming. It's really amazing. I feel very, very loved despite the Benedikta's temper. Like, I know she can be dislikable. I know people might even hate her. I don't know, but it's just, yeah, it's
Love-hate
amazing.
relationship for me.
Yeah, it's a love-hate. Yeah, I guess a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with her.
Yeah.
And I'm so, yeah, I'm so thrilled and it feels very humbling to be part of something so big.
Mm.
I never ever expected it to be so big, and yeah, I'm so grateful. And I know I have promised a lot of people that I'm going to play the game. I have the game. I have a PlayStation. I have the game. I haven't
Have you thought about
managed to.
streaming?
Yes. So I have a lot of amazing content creators who have offered to help me with the stream.
Awesome.
I haven't really got there yet. I haven't got so far. It's just because so much stuff has been happening in my life. I've been traveling
Yeah, I know.
everywhere and I haven't had time to really sit down, and I want to like sit down properly when I've got time and do it justice. So it will happen at some point. I'm not quite sure when, but yeah, it will happen. And also like aside from what I've done, and like it's just these game developers, they're the best in the world.
Mm.
It's just such an epic journey, and I'm hoping that everyone is feeling this. It's a lot of time to set aside and kind of delve into. It's a big commitment, but
It
I think
is
it's
because I sorry to cut you off. There was
no.
there was a moment there when I was playing where I didn't touch the controller for about 30 minutes. There's a lot of cutscenes, but
Right. Yeah,
man, is
yeah.
it's enthralling. I got to say.
Yeah. I think there is an option where you can play without the cutscenes, right? Like you can kind of.
I think you can't, but you can't do that. I wouldn't be doing
I
it
feel,
justice. You have
yeah,
to. You know
I
what I
feel like
mean?
you have to
Mm.
watch the cutscenes.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a big commitment, and I'm hoping that people still, take that time and commit to it and really enjoy it. yeah, I think David said it really nicely. David Mencken, who plays Barnabas, he said, now it's up to you guys. Like we're insignificant now. Like it's not about us, it's about you and you guys exploring the story. Now this world lives in it's in your hands. So yeah, I just enjoy and keep being brilliant.
But is it strange to you that maybe in 20 years, 30 years from now, people will still be talking about this? Have you comprehended that? Like this will live on for a long, long time, this game in many, you know what I'm saying?
That hasn't sunk in, no. So I don't know what you're saying. No, I can't imagine that. Actually, I can't imagine that.
It's a weird thing to think about.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a long 30-year long running franchise. It's yeah, no, it hasn't sunk in. I can't really comprehend it.
Yeah. Where can everyone follow you? Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah. So people can follow me on Nina Yndis. So it's my name all in one word. And it's the same handle on all of my social media. So Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter are probably my biggest accounts.
Beautiful. And before I let you go, is it possible if Benedikta can come alive and say something to Dan? Is that a possibility?
Sure. Do you have a line you want me to say?
Well, I kind of like the lamb slaughter line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come, little lamb, to the slaughter with you. Actually, I didn't quite like that one. I'm gonna try again.
Okay, give me another one.
Come, little lamb, to the slaughter with you.
Oh yeah, you turned it on there. Yeah,
I think that was better. Yeah, I needed to turn it on. I didn't turn it on the first time.
Yeah, I just saw the difference there. Wow, that is crazy.
I
thank
guess
you,
that's
Nina.
what I mean with like turning it off and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nina. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Everyone, make sure you follow Nina. Send her love. And I appreciate it, Nina. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan, for having me. And yeah, I love your content. So yeah, I'm also excited to watch this back. Or actually, maybe I shouldn't watch it back. I don't know. I get kind of cringed out. I get cringed out sometimes by myself. So I might watch it. But anyway, I really love all of your content. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.